Kara, thanks. It's Elon's now. He says he wants to make an immediate impact. Is that possible?
Absolutely. He can do anything he wants. He can run it any way he wants. And obviously, when you run a company, you can dictate the terms of how you want the place run. And he does that at his other companies. And so he's probably going to do that here. Now,
what does that mean for the management team? What does that mean for employees? Some people have all these theories that Musk is going to move the headquarters just so people quit and that there's this, there's going to be this fight between them. And how do you see this playing out in the early stages? Do you think any of those things will come to pass?
Well, Twitter's been remote for a while and has talked about that. So I don't know if that matters at all, where they put Twitter in any way. They have a beautiful headquarters in San Francisco. It's been underused during the pandemic. It's got a beautiful cafeteria, by the way, and all kinds of yoga places. It's very comfortable. But I think that hardly matters. I think the question is, will Twitter employees stay on if they don't like him? A lot of people don't. Some people love him. Will he be able to attract the right amount of employees? And as a private company, can they reward them in the same way that, say, a Meta or a Google can?
Yeah, most important, let's talk about the users themselves. Some of them are threatening to quit Twitter. Do you see anyone actually leaving? And maybe is sort of the central question for a lot of this as well, the likelihood of someone like Donald Trump being let back on, even though Trump himself has already said he is not coming back. He's sticking with his own platform.
Oh, this own platform is not going to exist in a little bit. It's kind of stick a fork in it and it's done kind of social network. He's coming back. He loves Twitter. He loves Twitter as much as Elon Musk loves Twitter. And it's a very useful political tool if he runs for office. So I can't imagine him not rejoining. I don't know how he can resist it. And he's not one that resists impulses. I think that's a fair way to put it. Trump, True Social, he hasn't tweeted on it at all, or whatever they call it there, truthed on that site at all, just once. And so I don't think that's going to be his platform. It's not a powerful platform. Nobody's there. And Twitter is where everybody is, the people he wants to reach. So whatever. I don't tend to believe Donald Trump's first statement on things.
Musk himself,
especially on Twitter,
when he was in that TED Talk recently, basically said he wants it to be more transparent so that whether you're up or down voted, obviously there's certain rules of speech they have to follow in every country, that transparency is attached to tweets. So everyone talks about the edit button and free speech and all the rest of it, but is transparency maybe the first thing that we could see here?
There's two really good ideas here. I mean, besides the edit button thing, which we've been wanting for a long time. It's not a new, fresh idea. The idea of cutting down on bots, another thing that people have talked about a lot. The idea about being anonymous is another issue that creates a lot of problems on the site. I think a lot of it, less of it is about free speech and more of it's about product innovation. You see something like TikTok and other things really growing like crazy and doing really well. And Twitter is sort of stayed small and it has been a sort of bad business. I'd agree with him about advertising, but not for the reason he uses. It's just they're not very good at it. And it's not big enough. And even though they talk about how big an impact Twitter has, it really doesn't across the world. And it's a very small company in terms of money, in terms of reach. And so it has a lot of potential and a lot of high profile, I guess, profile. I don't know what else to say. But it's not big the way it should be. And it's so much smaller than all the other social networks and has not grown the way all the other ones have.
And that leads us to the final question, which is, as Musk leans into this turnaround or rebuilding effort, he's also got Tesla, SpaceX, The Boring Company, Solar City, Neuralink, and again, now Twitter to manage. So is there a point in which he's stretched too thin?
Maybe he'll bring in the other part-time CEO, Jack Dorsey, back. I mean, think about it. People were upset about that if he becomes the CEO. He's someone who could do a lot of things at once, and I suspect he'll bring in management. He does that at his other companies. They have very competent executives at SpaceX and Tesla and various places. So I suspect he won't be the CEO of this. But at the same time, he's got to bring in really good, smart people and do product innovation. There's no reason Twitter can't be bigger. It's just that everybody else has eaten its lunch for years now. Let's see if they can do something innovative as a private company, which many people had hoped it would become, given all the controversy attached to it.
And now we will see how it flourishes under this new leadership, and in some ways out of the public eye and in other ways more in it than ever. Kara, thanks so much tonight. We appreciate it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.